Hi, my name is Sue. Yeah,
And this is, and this is, and this is, and this is Dear Bride.
so the fun fact is, drum rolls, please. Mary is actually my sister. We look each other. And I know we've been waiting for you to join us for a very long time. Episode last week really did well. Guys were like, oh, she's strong. Girl. Yes. Yeah. Kwanza, before we move on with this Grace Mareros, guys, I don't think you've seen our faces this episode, this season 2. Guys who've been asking, oh, please show your faces. Here we are. Say kwa intro too. We are here. Yeah. Yes. At first, I didn't think I had gone through grief. And then Mary has just reminded me that when she lost her baby, we were grieving. Ungeniona hapo. I was the one crying. Oh my gosh. And at that I can laugh right now, but because I remember when Mary was in labor. For people who haven't watched the previous episode 2, need to watch it so that you can understand about, yes. But Mary can recap what happened quickly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in episode 2, as they mentioned, we did a recording and I explained how I lost a child. I lost my dad and I lost a child. So that happened all the way back in 2019. So we conceived, but I wasn't ready to have a child at the time. Nini nini, but warmed up to it by the time I was giving birth. We lost the child upon delivery. So, yeah, a lot of reasons that caused me to lose the child, mainly because of negligence from the hospital. But yes, we lost our very first.
Na hiyo hospitali.
I know, but
Yeah, shaking my head. I'm just like,
Yeah, so Sue, you were telling us about how you went.
yes. So now, on the day Mary was supposed to conceive.
give birth.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hey, as if you were there.
I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't there when the baby was being conceived.
No, but that's
Let me backtrack. So on the day when the baby was to be born, I can't remember which day of the week it was, but then I remember when we took Mary to the hospital the previous day. And then now I was supposed to report to work, but then I decided, you know what, let me go first to hospital.
Yeah.
I was already on my way headed to Hosi when my boss called me, hey, where are you? I'm like, see, I'm going to hospital. She's like, no, 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 just come to work, report, and then you'll go to Hosi in the evening. Allow me to just go because I'm already halfway. And she was like, no, you need to, you come to work, nini, nini. And in my mind, I'm like, I need to be in hospital. Tell me why I get to work, and then my mom calls me, Mary has lost the baby. It was so devastating.
I can imagine.
The first person I went to tell was I went upstairs to my boss's office and was like, by the way, just so you know, my sister has lost the baby. And I broke down. For a moment, even her, she was shocked because she didn't know what to do.
Exactly, yeah.
And partially I also blamed her. I was like,
Because
if
you're like,
I
you
had
allow
been
me
there.
to go.
Yes, and you know the way you wake up very early, you're busy. Because I didn't even carry my work things that day. So even going to work, I was like, what am I coming to do at work? My mind is not here. So we rush, go to Hosi, and then I find my mom. Mom tells me, by then Mary has lost a baby. I don't even know how that scenario went.
It's interesting because I also forget bits and pieces. It's a trauma response.
Yeah, trauma, yeah, where your mind just
mind
blocks
just
off some
blocks.
beats and
Yeah, because now for
of
me,
the
I
whole
remember the story
scenario.
kidogo
Gosh.
kidogo.
Yes.
Kuna a period when it's so blurry.
Yeah,
Even remember
I'm
what
like,
happened in
what
that
was
period.
happening here?
I know.
Just remember being woozy.
Yes.
You're in disbelief majority of the time.
Must have been
Like it doesn't make sense.
quite
Okay,
something.
this is
Gosh.
happening, but how am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to be feeling right now? So yeah, so I get you. Kisema kuna vitu ukumbuki.
No. Yeah. So it gets to a point where you can't really recall exactly what happened, you know, in between or in, you know, some hours after.
And I think that happens for not grief only, but even trauma
Trauma, yeah, traumatic experience.
experiences.
Yes.
So the other thing that I have ever grieved is not practicing engineering.
After you went to school, all that.
By the way, if you ask me how to do some things, I can't remember. It's like my mind blocked it off from the time when I realized I couldn't graduate and imeenda.
Like, that's it. I can't practice.
So at some point it reached that we were struggling with fees. But then at that point, my school was not fully incorporated as a university. So it was still a college. And then at this point, it was not like other schools like KU. I had, if you fail a specific unit, you have to wait a number of semesters for you, and you pay full fees.
Until when they're going to be doing
Ours
that
at that
unit,
point, by
you
the
don't
way,
really take
there
it.
was no story like that. If you failed a unit, you could take it the next semester.
Even in Chiromo, we could do that.
Yeah, so so at that point you could get into, kwanza me I used to play paka na panya with teachers in school. I never used to have an exam card, especially the last bit of second year and third year. So when we were taking exams, I would get my seat. I would sit inside the exam room.
Oh,
What I'd do, go feed them, run feed the chickens.
so you'd get a slot in.
So I would get a slot. You just enter the exam room. When people are preparing you, you prepare. Prepare for the exams. So I go sit in the exam room. But then now they have to check exam cards. So when they check exam cards, you don't have an exam card. So what they do, they chase you out of the room.
Yeah, because you don't have an exam.
But then because they were distributing papers, you took a paper. So that's what I used to do. So I'd make sure I had my pens, my whatnot, mimi nimeka exam room. And then now once they've chased you, see they let the exam start, then you're outside there. Oh, unapima tu. once this invigilator leaves the room to go do something, you rush back in. So that's how I survived third year in the Technical University of Kenya.
Yo,
Wow.
like I'm listening to you speak, and I share the same feeling, but now for me it's during high school. And I also grieved that a lot. I hated the fact that we couldn't just go to school peacefully. That is something I didn't like. Like that is something I am very keen to not
Change,
let happen
like
to my
breaking it.
children.
You are keen to break it.
Exactly. I hated the fact because I really liked school.
Even primary school.
Yeah, like I genuinely enjoyed school, but it was so frustrating that you go to school, but then because your fee is not completed, you have to go back
Of course, you have
home.
to. They
And,
they
like, you
nini
keep
back home.
playing, yeah, you keep playing catch up, and it was so frustrating because we were not necessarily academically challenged.
But then
But
because
now-
you missed so many hours in school,
Exactly. it's you
It
do
affects your
extra
of
work
course,
because
yeah.
now sometimes there's some teachers who won't be willing to repeat
Of course,
certain
of course,
modules,
of course.
so you have to keep playing catch up. You're overdoing, like you're doing more than
Than
the
what you should
average
ideally have done, have
student or
been
pupil
doing.
is doing, you know. And I also grieved that a lot. I remember there was a time when it broke my heart anytime when you play back how
Like anytime
hard
you recall how you, what
tough
the tough, the
schooling was. I'm like, because now for me, I enjoyed college more because it was more swift. I never
there
at
wasn't
least,
hitches. There weren't
yeah,
any
at
hitches.
least. But then there was a bit where I wanted to further my studies, but then there was no money. There was always no money, so I started hustling very early as well. Because you have to hustle to pay for your own school.
I can relate. I think for me, the grieving I have gone through is majorly and heavily over my mother. Because my for those who are watching and have not heard my story, I think I'll get in one of the episodes. We'll talk about it. My mom battled cancer. I have never openly talked about it. Battled cancer for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so when she passed on in 2021, and so I think that has been the most traumatic slash hardest period of my life. I think that's the deepest grief I have experienced. And as you're saying, I can't recall. She passed on in January. I cannot recall what happened to my life between February and around June.
Yeah, you are on autopilot.
Yes, extreme autopilot. And so I can't even tell, by the way. I think I came back to my senses when one day I walked somewhere and I burst out crying and all the emotions, and I realized, but my husband had been telling me I'm not myself. Because there are so many things that had changed, which we will talk about, which I think we need to address, and talk about. Now that each of us has gone through grief, I want us to discuss how that has affected our relationships. That is, in your circles, be it your friends, your relatives, having gone through it from a younger age, how does that make you respond right now that you're a mom? How does that make you respond to situations or things that come up, and what would you do differently? Yeah.
Yeah. I know. She did her homework. Naitwa Dombolo. Yeah. Hii saa inasonga. Me, when anytime I think about it, I'm like, where's that doctor? Dombolo yenye ulipiga.
We should
We should do
actually
that episode on Dombolo. They went to the first time Mary was laboring. I went to the labor ward. I was like, unaona mtu ameshikilia kitanda. I was like, I remember asking her, that woman won't fall down. She was like, that person has a lot of strength. Don't see them like that. But that person, that woman was, it's like she stood and labor pains came and she was holding, I think she held on to the next thing that was close to her and she was shaking. Have you ever shaken? I think people who had COVID were the ones shaking. They shake and then she had, those small sweats, jeke la jasho, when you're in pain. Hey, you can just see she's sweating those small sweats, but then afterwards, and then someone later on walks like they're okay. I'm like, yo. Good job to some medics. And you did a vaginal birth. Thanks to you, Mama. Power to the people. Ama any sign. Ama this sign is for Ubuntu. You're like, you even go and you put your finger. It's funny, but it's never fun. A part and a portion of trying to control it because of the trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh God, what if it happens?
Yeah.
It's gonna happen again.
What if this is short-lived?
Mm.
What if
Oh,
it's
because
just
it's so
for
it's
a few months?
nice and all that,
Yeah.
and then you don't want it to be short
Exactly. You don't want to be too excited before immediately. Like, what if something happens?
So you're very cautiously happy.
Overcautious.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm celebrating this scenario.
But
And
not
I think
too
that
much.
happens with everything that you grieve or sometimes, because for some people, when you lose something, you're like, yeah, that has happened to me now. Yes. So now with me, with engineering, what I did after playing the Mpaka na Panyas, by the way, guys, I actually finished my coursework, I did my project.
That is really commendable.
I finished all those things. But then now I think at some point when now guys were preparing to graduate, I was preparing as well. I had a friend who was like, don't give up. Because you've done the exams, you've finished. Because I had what are these things where you fail one unit?
One soup.
I had a soup. I even sat for that soup and passed the soup. So we were sparring each other. And then in the long run, at the finish line, I was like, you know what? Why am I even pushing forward for this? To get these papers, yet I don't have fees. And there, for some reason, by the way, it's like my mind shut down. I stopped pushing for graduation. And back then, even I recently went back this year, and the person who I was talking to was like, but the era in which you're in school, imagine you'd have graduated. The only thing they wouldn't have given you your certificate,
yes.
but you'd have graduated.
Yes.
And he asked me, why didn't you graduate? And I was like, sincerely speaking, I think I just shut down. And in my head, it's like I blocked it. And that's when I was like, because I was already running a business, and I was like, you know what? I have not gone to school. In my head, even till now, it's something difficult. If you ask me, so what do you do? In my head, engineering is not part of it because I feel like it's not something I did. Like, yes, I went to school. Yes, I
you
almost
invested time in
graduated
it.
and I invested time in it. However, it has been a point of frustration and a point of loss. And it comes with a lot of pain. Because even for me to go to do engineering, I had gone through pain for me to go do engineering. And then in the long run, I'm like, so maybe God is punishing me, which I know He wasn't punishing me. But then there's that part. In the moment, I was like, you know what? This course is bringing me pain. I will just leave it. And so that's how I switched. So for me, I didn't, you see the way you watch, I wasn't I was just like, you know what, I will move. And I remember even an aunt of mine was like, but wewe ulifanya nini shule? I was like, I did civil engineering. She was like, you know, we don't know what you've done. And in my head, I'm like, this comes with a lot of pain, with a lot of a lot of loss. It just feels like I wasted time in school for me not to get my fees. And I know now that I look at it, it's a lot of pity partying somewhat. There's also the part of me making a lot of excuses, yet I would have pursued it. I was even telling my husband, hey Vic, by the way, sielewi why I never pursued engineering, because I had people around me. And then also I think, no, I actually did some bit of exploring. We did a lot of tamaking with some friends of mine, some two friends of mine from uni. Hey, we used to work in industrial area with our CVs. You know, there are some farms who call for engineering. If there's heartbreak, leave alone babes who are heartbroken with men who have money. Sasa, kuna heartbreak of not being able to find a job for the thing that you've actually studied. And we did a lot of tamaking, walking around Inda. Then there are some you would be told, oh, you know, I have a friend here, please go give your CV. They are looking for engineers. And I even went for one. I remember one particular interview I went for. There were so many men. I was the only girl. Went into the room. It was an informal setting of an office. And then there were like 4 men. And there were very many men in that office. And I remember it was so intimidating. And I think after I went for that interview, because they were asking me, so do you know, I've forgotten what they asked me, but can you design for us? Sijui what? I was like, yeah, I can design it. I can do it. I was so confident, you know. Yeah, so we went for that interview. They never got back. I don't even think they ever got back to me. But just the mere fact that I hadn't graduated, I shut down. And that's how I switched very quickly into entrepreneurship. Like now I set my mind, you know what, this is what, because you know, in the beginning, the business was to help me pay fee. But then now there's the part for black tax where in business, you think you'll pay your fee, but what you're getting, we would survive on. Maybe life was tough. Promotions, yes. Because I was doing promos after high school, immediately after. Because I remember even the job where my mom was, they used to hand out, people used to get paid. You stand in traffic and you distribute flyers. So that was my first recruitment. So look, my place was there, Museum Hill. You rauka very early in the morning. You go, you stand there, and then you distribute. Once you're done, you go, you take your 1,000 bob. And it was 2003, 13 huko. It was like 1,000 bob. Yeah, for me it was 1,000 bob per day. But then now you only work the morning hours because that's when there's a lot of traffic. And I remember that was actually something else that I have been grieving recently. And I remember telling Victor, I feel like all my life it has always been go, go, go.
Do, go.
Like I've not,
You're on the move.
like I've never had the luxury of just being,
I know, like, let's.
by virtue of being the firstborn and the first girl from my maternal side, and then also the first cousin, on our maternal side, and then you feel like there's the pressure of you have to be an example to these guys. And so as we were told,
You need to set the pace.
yeah, so from the start there was no place for me to make mistakes. And by the way, me, I am your stellar student. Shule I am your model citizen. I don't rebel. I don't do all these things. I never clubbed. Part of the reason, aside from the fact that it was my faith, it was just the fact that if I club, what will my sister do?
Exactly.
What will my cousins do? You know, if I start making these mistakes, what will my people do? And yes, there are points that I had that I was able to be just a child, but then I grew up really fast. And in that growing up very fast, that's why now me, I was like, this engineering thing is not working. I don't have time. Let's move.
What's next?
So me, I didn't work on the grief. I actually just I adjusted. I pivoted, and that has been my life ever since, pivoting. You know what? This business is not working. I looked for a job. Quickly, I looked for a job in the event space and shifted. And then once the job wasn't working anymore, I was like, you know what? Let me jump into full-time entrepreneurship. But then let me tell you guys, Kimani Ramba this year, I feel like God purposely slowed things down so that I can start healing. And I remember Mary telling me about her healing, and I was like, when will I ever get here?
I know, like,
Yeah. Can we have a moment of silence? Silence.
For real.
Yeah. And your mom was actually very present even when you got baby.
Throughout, like, she was
Yeah.
extremely.
Yeah.
In fact, my mom was my best friend. Like,
I completely feel you, and I don't know how people who got into marriage without their parents, how they cope, because even me, my mom has been my backbone even in marriage.
Right.
Because me, I remember year one was like, mom, ni mboga gani nanunua?
and then
As if I'd
she
never
knows.
gone to the
I
soko.
know.
And she told me, Ebu, let's go to WhatsApp. And I was within the supermarket. This is
True.
mboga. Ebu, tell me, this one is? And she's like, this is osuga. And this is
Right?
neck.
Like,
And
she
this
would
is
plan it,
mchicha,
she would tell you,
yes.
this is what this is how you do it. No, don't do all this, and all of a sudden, she's been taken away, and now it's a space where I have to now do things alone. I have to go through weeks alone. I understand my husband was there, but because of the pain I had felt, I was now scared of losing someone else who is so close to me, and because of that, I started preventing and blocking people. Because I was like, After all, why should we be this close? And then
you need to stop cutting people.
yes, I started cutting people off, not because of anything, but because I felt I don't need to love someone and then this whole pain and trauma and then I'll lose them. And then I was like, how did Yani, my mom of all the people, I knew she would survive this. How did she go? So my response was block people. Like, I did not have feelings. I was not in touch with my feelings, by the way. Sometimes my husband would tell me, Aki, babe, I feel like you're so insensitive. Because even some of my closest friends, I cut them off. And honestly speaking, I did not have a hint of emotion.
Just know.
Oh, by the way, right now, right now, I'm good, yo.
You know, it wasn't you.
By the way, for real, yeah, it was me. Because I felt, why, what's the point?
Yeah.
Why have connections and they will be cut off? Like, I know it's also a way that the enemy deceives us not to live out our lives fully. That you are alone, that it will happen again. You keep living in the fear, so you cannot be fully happy. You see, God calls us to joy. In God's presence there's fullness of joy, and so because we are his, we are called to have fullness of joy, but you don't. Why?
Part of if it's something that it's some like now for education, me I was like, you know what, this engineering I don't really need it. So yeah, so for some of us with even education or lost opportunities, you become, I don't think delusional is the word, but that's the closest I can say. You become delulu, like delulu. You convince yourself that, you know what, that one wasn't important. Let's keep forging ahead. Let's move without this. I can move without
opportunity you missed, and that one really
yes,
really needed you.
yeah,
Instead that
you know, you're like, you know what, and
you
I
know
think
it was it, but you're like, yeah.
Anything you look forward to the worst case scenario.
yeah.
Every other time you're applying
The
for
worst
a
that
job,
could happen.
but at the back of your head, you're like, "Ata wakinikata ni sawa."
Yeah,
I
you
know,
become a very
that with
pessimistic
jobs, Aki.
person.
Yes.
And me,
Oh,
I've been
yes.
pessimistic, and then
You do.
nowadays I'm like, you know what, that can't work. So
Yes.
and you know what, actually, to protect my heart, I am the way you used to say you expect bad things, like
Yeah.
automatically I'm like, yeah, as in I know you will not support
Yeah, true.
me, and I've carried that